I've been thinking a lot about is the stories we tell ourselves about money. How often in
Mm,
your work do you hear something and
yeah.
you realise that that's probably a
That's
story
a story you're
perhaps you
telling
told you.
yourself.
Yeah, when does that happen? And provide me with an example of when that might occur.
Ooh. Okay. Um, so here was this is a story that happened recently. Um, I had a client who was telling me about we almost had like a two stories in one with this one, right? Um, they told me about a really common issue that they have. It's an issue that loads of people have where they felt very overwhelmed with all the different changes they were going to have to make because they were overspending in various ways, and they weren't in debt, but they weren't happy, and they weren't building any assets of any kind, and they felt like they were wasting a lot of money. It's a really common thing that people come to me about. But they felt like the small changes were too small to be worth making, and the big changes were too overwhelming and stressful to start on. So they kept sort of leaving themselves with no, it was catch-22. They were leaving with themselves with no space to do anything, right? So, I was helping them to understand that, well, we'll practice on the small changes, and that will help you build up towards the bigger ones. And you might be surprised how the progress you make with the small things actually compounds and builds, and actually that's going to, all of that stuff. But before I could even get into that, I said, oh, so what it sounds like to me from what you're saying is you feel like the small changes are too small to bother with, and the big changes are too big and scary and overwhelming. And they nodded, and I said, that's really common. Loads of people come to me and say that. And the client went, I thought I was special. I've always seen, that's disappointing. Now, most people find it so reassuring when you say this is a really common problem. Loads of people have this issue. You're not alone. It's, for most people, that's a big relief. That person had a self-conception of themselves as being
unique
and a very deep,
unique with that particular challenge.
Well, and unique in general, just a very deep, complicated person. And therefore they expected their problems to be deep, complicated problems. And unfortunately, they might be a very deep and complicated person in some ways, but actually they had a problem in this case that was really relatable to loads of other people. It's something that everybody,
and again, it goes back to identity, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Like I've got this unique issue that I'm really going to have to work hard.
I'm going to have to struggle so hard with.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And there's so interesting. The story. I mean, maybe the story they're telling themselves is they need to struggle to make positive change. Maybe that.
I think the story that they were telling themselves was they were too unique and special to change.
Yeah, it's interesting.